on ET now. The bill has now gotten the Rajya Sabha's nod as well after getting the Lok Sabha's nod. There have been talks earlier as well about the regulation of this RMG segment in particular. What's the government's intent and thinking behind bringing this bill now?
I think let's be clear that for quite some time, clarity on regulation of this sector is something that the industry has sought and something which has been waiting for a while. As you're aware, in April 2023, the IT rules were amended to provide for the formation of the self-regulating bodies for some of the online real money games. And that mechanism was to be put in place. And the rules themselves provided that until such time that at least 3 SRBs were recognized, the rules would not come to force. So effectively, those rules never came into force. And an alternate legal framework needed to be put in place. And there was a fair bit of consideration. The industry had made a number of their suggestions and representations over a period of time. Many segments of the industry sought greater clarity as to how the differentiation between different types of games in the gaming industry would be done. They also sought clarity in terms of how with an authority, with a regular government-constituted authority to be brought in place so that there is clarity in the way regulation would take place. For all of these reasons, they felt that the regulation needed to be revamped. All of this was in the offing, in the process of consultation. Industry had represented a fair bit, and in the government at multiple levels, this was being considered. Finally, a decision was due, and that decision took place at this time. And I think the government was also concerned about the impact that this would have. There are 2 elements to this. One element to this is a clear message to the gaming creation and development segment that, this is something, this is a segment that the government values. Gamers and gaming development, India developing as a global gaming hub is something that the government believes is in the interest of the country and the interest of our youth. There's a lot of creativity to be unleashed there. A series of measures have been taken. The National Institute of Creative Technology is to come up in Mumbai. Waves as a big event took place in Mumbai. Even prior to that, MeitY has centers of excellence both in Hyderabad and in Shillong, which promote AVGC and gaming. So that part of talent development and that part of capacity building is something which has been going on for a while, and that creativity is something that the Prime Minister has also recognized in some of the interactions that he had with the gaming sector, with the creators. So that's one part of it, and that had to be clearly recognized. And the other part is the distress, the social distress, which was being caused to large segments of India's population. By various estimates, between 45 crore to 50 crore Indians, between 450 to 500 million Indians play some of these real money games. That is something that industry representatives mentioned to me even a few minutes ago. So clearly, the size is such that we need to make sure that this is a segment which should not cause distress to such a large number of people. And there have been reports. There are a number of other studies also to show that there has been considerable distress. Many families have been in financial distress. There are issues of addiction. There are cases where people have committed suicide because of this kind of addiction and because they've lost sizable sums of money to playing many of these games. So clearly, this is an area which was of concern. Repeatedly, I've heard from members of parliament in various parliamentary standing committees cutting across party lines, cutting across ideological lines, repeatedly asking us, saying, what are we doing on this question of online money games? And why isn't the government doing enough on this? And even amongst the ministers who discussed this issue, it was very clear that they were very concerned about their constituents and others, and in the broader society, the impact of online games to families and in terms of the financial distress it caused. So the social impact is something that they were very aware of, and therefore there's clear distinction and delineation between what is permissible, the activities which are beneficial and need to be encouraged, as opposed to those activities where strong action is needed, stern action is needed. In fact, the minister today in Parliament used the term crore, which is a stern measure, and where stern measures are needed had to be done, and that is what the government has stepped up to do.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, those are some of the conversations that have been going on since past many years, a differentiation, demarcation as far as the gaming industry is concerned. And you've touched upon very important points. I'll come to some of those one by one, including what the opposition has also said. But sir, the bill envisages the creation of a regulatory authority. I want to understand from you, how will that regulatory authority function? State versus central legislation, how will that work, and how much of a say will states have?
See, I mean, let us be clear on this. The regulatory authority is functioning in an area of what is called esports and what is called online social games. Now, both of these are areas where both the center and the state have a number of activities which are going on. In the case of sports, and esports is nothing but a representation of the physical world sports. When you play chess in the physical world, you play e-chess in the esports world. So similar examples abound. Those are areas which are encouraged both by the Government of India and by the state government. Both governments encourage. So there is space for both of them to act. Likewise, in online social games, this is like any aspect of trade and commerce. Within a state, the state government can do something to encourage it. At the national level, interstate, and so on, the Government of India can do something to encourage it. And that is what the authority will be working on. What kind of measures, what kind of programs, what is required, how do we sort of enable this? Those are the measures. So I think there is going to be no issue between the jurisdiction of the state and the center. So that is not a problem at all. Where it comes to online money games is where, this jurisdictional issue has been played in various legal fora to actually block, in certain cases, the state government's jurisdiction. Because what's been argued has been that many of these online games are not games of chance alone. And the state government's purview really extends to betting and gambling, which denotes games of chance. And if there is an element of skill, then the state government does not have a right to take action against it or act against games of skill. Now, a recent judgment of the Madras High Court upholding a recent law that the Tamil Nadu legislature had passed on online gaming, on online games of various kinds, held that the state government had a right to regulate games of skill also as trade and commerce within the state, intrastate trade and commerce. So now, if the state government has a recognized role to regulate something which happens within the state, then interstate trade and commerce and cross-border trade and commerce, that is international trade and commerce, are within the remit of the Government of India. They're covered by item 41 and 42 in list 1 of the 7th schedule of the Constitution. And they are within the union list and the powers of the Government of India. And we are not making a distinction of whether these are games of skill or games of chance. So all kinds of games would be included in that, provided they are money games, provided that they involve the payment of some amount as a deposit or a wager, and there is some money which is returned or comes back. So as long as that kind of a schema exists and that situation exists, then they would basically amount to money games. And those games would amount to trade and commerce, which is plied interstate when it goes from one state to another, or internationally when it comes from outside India. And those are something where the Government of India has the legal authority to block. And likewise, anything which is done online, because it operates on a means of communication. Item 31 of the union list covers post, telegraph, communication of various kinds. So the entire internet and what happens there is governed by law which is made by the Government of India. So that is the way the distinction is made. And I do not see any grounds to say that there would be a differentiation between center and states, or that the center has sort of gone on to exercise authority beyond what is in its remit and stepped into the state government's shoes. And also, please remember that ultimately, if there is a prohibition, and because these are criminal offenses in the end, violations of those prohibition, clearly law enforcement agencies, police agencies are with state governments, and they are the ones who will enforce those laws. And therefore, they very much have a role in what has to happen.
Sir, I'm glad that you make that clarification about centre versus states, also that point about overseas jurisdiction, which gets covered under this bill. But let's come back to, the diverse viewpoints that have been coming in, because opposition MPs have claimed that this bill will push money games activities underground, and perhaps legalization is the way forward for the industry. How are you looking at addressing those concerns, and what's your reaction to what the opposition's been stating with respect to this bill?
You see, there have been, we do understand that, anything which is online, there are always enforcement challenges. But I think the enforcement practice has been growing already, even as we speak. Under the IT Act, under Section 69A of the IT Act, more than 1,500 websites and portals which offer illegal betting and other money games have been blocked by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Likewise, the Ministry of Home Affairs informs me about close to 1,400 games on various sites have been taken down by way of notices from various law enforcement agencies and other entities under Section 79 3B, where if you're doing something illegal, you can give a notice to an intermediary also saying that this is illegal and you will need to act on it for fear of prosecution. And based on such notices, almost about more than 1,300 have been taken down. So as you can see, close to about 2,800 plus cases we have already acted under these provisions. Now we have a much stronger provision through this act. So it is a technical exercise. It's a technological exercise. We have to exercise considerable vigilance. And this is activity which will have to be constantly monitored and acted against. Now,
absolutely.
One key thing which we need to remember here is that any payments ultimately end up through the financial system. And facilitating these payments is also something which this act covers. And digital payments are ultimately out in the open. I mean, in the sense that they are regulated payments, they're made by regulated entities. These regulated entities come under the RBI's purview. So I think that's an extremely powerful provision. Even if you can access a particular site online, whether you'll be able to make payments for it is a key question. Of course, there could be other means of payment and, all of that, but it makes it so much more difficult to do it. And not everybody is going to be in a position to do it. So I'm sure that the provisions of law are well thought out, and many of these challenges, these implementation challenges, can be addressed, and implementation is something that we can handle as we go along. That is
Absolutely.
really what administration is there to do. I mean, we are not worth our salt if we are not able to do that.
Well, it's time now for us to slip into a quick break, but lots more coming up on the other side.